Hey, White Sox fans, right back at you with the South Side Sox Mothership podcast. This is number 57. And as promised just a day ago, we're going back to back with some phenomenal podcast subjects. Again, like I said just yesterday, these are some of my favorite podcasts to do because it gives me an opportunity to get to know a new staff member, to introduce that staff member to you, and hey, share a story of a fellow fan, and in the case of some of you, a fellow writer, a fellow contributor. So today, for number 57, back to back with Jackie Crestel, it's Celeste Radogno. I was certain I was going to get that wrong. I hope I got it right.
I got it right. Most people say Rodogno, so I usually let it slide, but you got it right.
And even with the mental picture of Vinnie Radogno. Hey, you, what's up? Celeste, that's Vinny on the lap. Also a White Sox fan, but not wearing the White Sox bandana. It's all right because you've got last night's hat on, and that's going to carry the day. So when we are talking to get this podcast started off, I want to know, I asked Jackie this and I had not done it in the past, but I would like to know, Celeste, what you thought when I reached out of the blue. I mean, we're best friends now, but we weren't just like 5 days ago. So what do you think when some person from South Side Sox was bothering you?
Yeah, well, so first I was like, oh, something with the check marks in my DMs. They're trying to sell me something.
Oh, yeah, it turned out to be true.
Yeah, and then, I read the message and I think I was like, is this a pyramid scheme? And then I was like, okay, yeah, sure, whatever, I'll do it. Sounds cool.
I like that flow chart. Rip off, sure.
Whatever.
Okay, well,
off. Like, if someone wants to take my identity, like have my student loans, go for it.
With that level of casual commitment, this can't go wrong, Celeste. Absolutely not. So let's then go to the next question, he said, and I would like to know perhaps your path to Sox fandom, how you came here, how you even got in position to be this, oh, dare I say, it's a terrible word, but I like using it because we all have it on this staff, a sassy White Sox Twitter account, the former Jason Spaghetti, now Celeste Spaghetti. I like that transformation, but had gained a pretty popular following on the so-called White Sox Twitter. And now you've been asked to I don't think you're asked to the adults table. I think you've now just been asked to the kids table, but you're at the kids table of actually writing about the team now. But let's talk a little bit about how you even came to be a White Sox fan.
Sure. So the tale starts back with my grandpa, Nunzio Rodogno. And the story was that he was a Cubs fan. And I don't know whether this is true or not. I never fact checked it, but according to him, the Cubs wouldn't hire or sign Italians. So after he found that out, he's like, okay, I'm a Sox fan now. And so that's how that started. And then when I was born, my dad likes to say that, his first word was either going to be, if I was a girl, it was going to be softball. If I was a boy, it was going to be baseball. So it ended up being softball. And I don't think I ever really thought twice about it. I just we're a Sox family, and that's just what it is.
Yeah, when you're born into it, you don't question it. You don't have any choice, and unless you're given a real reason to, you wouldn't question it. Now, let's go back to Nunzio, because if he started out a Cubs fan or had any Cubs leanings, does that mean further up the family tree there is a little? I mean, you're saying you're obviously the core family Sox, no question. You guys are all of you are obviously very bright people, but further up the tree, is there a little bit of division, or is the whole tree is very wise?
The only person in my family that's not a White Sox fan is my 10-year-old cousin, who lives in Phoenix and is actually not a Diamondbacks fan. He's a Cubs fan, but he's in that little boy phase where they just want to be contrarian. So I'm sure he'll grow out of it.
Yeah.
If not, then we can just like abandon him. I don't know.
Yeah, the family picnics are going to they're going to get nasty real quick. That's for sure. Man, I knew this was a bright family to begin with. And now, see, I'm making notes of the increased respect I'm feeling for it. So, all right, give me a second to gather myself here. Okay, so I want to talk about, and I guess it bears mentioning because I'm a very organized host, bears mentioning that Meet the Players with Celeste is out live on the site too. She's actually already had a piece on site, sort of snuck that in before the actual formal intro to make people see the byline and say, what, who, what? I keep tabs very closely on all 6,000 people who contribute to South Side Sox, and I don't think I've seen this name before. Well, you haven't, but now you have, and you're getting to learn a lot about Celeste and the brilliant Rodognos, because I'm blowing too much smoke already. But one thing that came out in the Meet the Players, again, live on site, is a little bit of a story of your first game. And I'm a little surprised coming out of the womb as a White Sox fan, you seem to be a little bit low on gear because it was sort of a rush, maybe a little bit of a rush job to get geared up for your first game.
Yeah, I was, the sad thing is I don't even remember what year it was, but I was young, and it was like I was with my little friendo and her parents took us, and I didn't have anything. And so my mom took me to like Target, and surprisingly they had White Sox stuff, which, yeah, I don't know. But yeah, so I bought this shirt and it said like White E Sox. It was on the other side of the buttons. And I have people legit coming up to me being like, what are the White E Sox? And I'm like, okay, you wouldn't have asked if it was like the Cub S, or like, so that was kind of my first, like, as a kid being like, okay, Sox don't have any recognition, whatever. So
it just made you dug in on an age earlier than you really should have. That's too young to have to dig in, but
way too young.
Yeah, it helps you from slamming into that brick wall that we all hit at some point, maybe a little bit more quickly. All right, well, it still doesn't really address the issue of no gear, but I'm glad you got geared up in some weird sort of like pseudo bootleg, oddly stitched way. And that, again, you did sort of get your harsh introduction to what perceptions are sometimes in the Chicagoland area of the two teams. Man, some heady stuff for just a first game.
You know what? I have that shirt actually because it was so big that it fits me now, like regularly.
Oh, please, Celeste. Next podcast, could you represent the White E-Sox, please? Let's make it happen. Okay, another thing I need to, again, we're not going to go through point by point everything in the Meet the Players. What's the point of reading it then? And go read it. You don't have to pause this or stop listening to it right now. I don't mean literally, but go read it because you get to know a little bit more, a little bit fuller picture of Celeste. Plus, she allowed me full permission to contribute some to her intro, and she doesn't even know what that is yet. And if you haven't read it yet, you don't know what it is yet either. So again, something you're want to just store in your pocket and go check out. But something I want to follow up on too, fast pitch pitcher, but also apparently a hoopster to some degree, and a game played with a broken hip. I'm going to need a little bit more information about the broken hip game.
So that was actually a basketball game. And what happened was I was a little bit known around the middle school circuit for being a little bit aggressive on the court. And I was actually intentionally pushed in this game. And I was in 8th grade. I broke the growth plate in my hip. And I was so pissed that I played the rest of the game because I was like, these girls were like laughing. Middle school girls are ruthless. And I was like, fuck you. I'm going to keep playing.
Middle school though.
Yeah. So I was probably the youngest person ever to break a hip.
So if you were to ever limp today, you could say, yeah, I had a broken hip. And they'll say, man, I really thought you were a little younger than you were, Celeste. Geez, you look great for being 76. Man, that is, I don't know if I like all the answers to these questions. I don't know if I like some of this background. That is harsh. But okay, so what did you do to put yourself in a position to be so hated by a rival middle school that they're doing this to you?
I mean, I was just like an aggressive player. Like I always got fouled out of games. I just like I wasn't good at basketball. And my dad would always tell me, he's like, God gave you elbows, so use them. So I would just like, get the players out of the way so my friends that were good could score. And I did the same thing in soccer too. Like I played high school soccer, and one of my friends was like played in college level eventually. It was like super good, and I really wasn't. So I would just kick girls in the shin, and then she would go and score. And it worked out every time. Probably shouldn't be saying this.
I hope some people who one day may face you or have to oppose you in some way, whatever, across the table or in court, somehow think you're gonna see somebody freeze one day and go, wait, I know how I know this person, and now she's in my head. Okay, aggressive. Okay, fast pitch softball then, pre-injury. I'm guessing we went through this just yesterday with Jackie, and she admitted freely that she was a very aggressive pitcher. She backed people off of the plate all the time. I'm guessing you weren't a soft tosser then, and you weren't like sweet on the mound.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't at the phase, like when I got my shoulder surgery from pitching, that was in between 8th grade and freshman year of high school. So I was very young. I wasn't at the phase yet where I could like control pitches and intentionally give people any chin music or anything like that. But I did have a record. There was one game where I actually injured 3 girls, and one had to go to the hospital, but that wasn't because of pitching.
Okay, all right, we're going to have to break this down fully. Okay, so before high school, you have a broken hip and you have shoulder surgery, significant shoulder surgery. Now I have to ask, what are the other major athletic injuries? Is it really just those two?
Yeah, I mean, I broke my fingers like in basketball, but that's not major.
Come on, you shrug that up. You play the whole rest of the month with broken fingers.
If you count frisbee as a sport, I did chip half of my tooth, so half of my front tooth is fake.
I think the delineation I'm going to use, just like I told Jackie yesterday, where if you got paid even $5 to play like a sport in college, it's like legit. That's a legit scholarship. So you're legit. I think if there's a question about whether the sport is legit, if you have if you've injured yourself in any severe way, yeah, I think we're gonna have to call that a sport. I think it rounds up if you've damaged yourself playing it, for sure. I feel good, Celeste, way back, boy, it's been more than a year, I think, when I had maybe the first time I talked to Keelan Ballou, a fellow South Side Sox staffer. She was telling me the story about how she broke her collarbone, and she broke her collarbone. She had been a track star. I'll round her up. She was a track star. She was on the Olympic track, the track to be in Olympic track. And she thought, this is a very small hurdle. I'll have no problem getting over it. And it turns out she didn't. And she tripped over a hurdle that I guess apparently was like a foot. And I just completely insensitively, I just cracked up about that. I couldn't get over the fact. And I mean, she was being very good, like self-deprecating about, like, yeah, I can't believe it. This is the injury I have. Mm-hmm. I'm still like suffering the ramifications of a broken collarbone because of some weird little hurdle incident. I mean, I ended up feeling so bad afterward. I was like, geez, God, Keelan, I'm so sorry. This is ridiculous. Why was I laughing? It didn't even occur to me. I guess I thought it was a bit. It didn't even occur to me that I was laughing at someone's injury and, potentially debilitating injury. And not that I expect appreciation or applause for this, Celeste, but there has been no such behavior from me this time. And we're talking about 2 significant injuries, one of which apparently you sort of deserved because you were a hellion on the basketball court, to the point where middle school opponents ganged up. Was that at least like the rival school, or was it just somebody like, we sort of got the report on you in the junior high notes and we're going to take you out?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't even, there was always one other school and we were always in the championship, and that wasn't even them. Like,
so they were doing a favor for the big rivals, like, all right, we're gonna take her out, sort of like, and then you were crafty enough to, in soccer, then sort of incorporate some of that thinking too to help your friend out. Okay, let's move a little bit deeper into some Sox talk and your fandom. Let's talk about a memorable game. I'm guessing you've been to plenty. You've been to some this year, so you're a legit fan. You're not just sitting back watching controlling the remote, jumps out at you as you know, a top game or games that you've been to in the past?
Yeah, I think on my Meet the Players, I said like Paul Konerko's retirement. I was also at Hawks last day, which is relevant. You know, the weird thing is that I don't have like great memories of being at all these games. And I think that's because like growing up, I was on the road for like travel softball so much that I was realizing when I was thinking about it, so I was like, he's gonna ask me this question. I listened to a lot of games on the radio because, you know, we were always playing after school. So I was always in the car like half the time. And then when I got home, I was, you know, going to bed or whatever. So like, I have these memories of these games, but the funniest thing is that the thing that sticks out to me the most is Gene Honda's voice.
Yeah.
Like saying players from the past. So like, I'll get flashbacks of Gene Honda just being like, Juan Uribe. Cool.
No, but for sure, it's a big part of it. I mean, especially in an age and an era when there's so much going on. This isn't like some game you remember from 1970 where, you know, somebody was calling it out on a megaphone. So the fact that there's, you know, him as a constant, and when he's not there, everybody's always like, well, why isn't Gene here? Oh, he's doing the NCAA Final Four or whatever. You know, why isn't Gene here? Is he okay? Because, yeah, I mean, he's synonymous with the park. It seems as like, you know, fireworks after a home run. So yeah, it's not that surprising, although still, yeah, pretty quirky. I'm sure there are plenty of people are like, yeah, all I remember is Nancy Faust, you know, jingles as some opposing player was coming up to the plate, because like that's always there. It's always a constant. Even the players come and go, but. All right, so Gene Honda, the Gene Honda super fan, and Celeste Rodogno. Okay, so
Oh, my dog is Vinny.
It wouldn't be a South Side Sox podcast if we did not have some pet intrusion. It's been a while, actually. So it's sort of nice to see that Vinny is bringing spirited presence. Needs that lap, as Celeste admitted to me before we went on, thinks he's a lap dog, and he is putting that lap dog need into action here for the podcast. Stealing some screen time, Vinny. Clever, because Vinny knows the numbers. Vinny knows the big numbers we do on the South Side Sox podcast. Watch us on YouTube. Okay, Celeste. Let's I guess maybe I reserve the right to dip back into. All right, one more question about what led you to us in the Celeste portion of the podcast, and that is I didn't even realize in either case with you or Jackie, and I'm sort of associating you together because you sort of hopped on, I guess, in the same weekend. We all just became best friends in the last few days. It's really amazing. It's extraordinary that we've come gotten so close so quickly, but I did not honestly realize I had signed up 2 ringer pitchers. Now I understand that while Jackie has just been like off for 10 years and maybe couldn't quite hit the plate, carve the heart of the plate the way she once did, you at this point with the shoulder injury probably would have to try to go lefty if you were to pitch again, or do you think you have gained some of that strength back?
I don't think there's a way I could pitch again. So my last game ever that I pitched was coming back. It was the summer in between freshman and sophomore year. And I was like, I'm going to try to do high school softball. Maybe I can pitch again. My shoulder still wasn't feeling great. And then my dad was like, he was always my coach too. And he got involved with like the high school team. And he's like, fine, like you can go. I did like a inning of relief pitching. I pitched great. I had a perfect inning, which was like great, except I couldn't feel my arm after. Like it was like the pain was like radiating out of my fingers. It was tingling. I couldn't move it for like 3 days. And I was like, yeah, I can't do this anymore. So I mean, granted, that's still it's like over a decade ago, but I don't think I want to try.
Yeah, it's good to have the feeling in both of your hands for sure. Yeah. And no weird lark question from me would be worth probably numbing your arm once again. I think that's probably a good call. And so this was after surgery, but it just wasn't like all the way back, or?
Yeah, and I think part of it was my fault. I probably didn't do like physical therapy. I probably didn't take it as seriously as I should have. So I was a freshman in high school, and then I like in between freshman and sophomore year we moved, so I was like going to a different high school, and that's a very formative time. So it's just like a lot of other things going on,
Yeah.
and
Plus,
so
plus you were busy like devising ways to like slide tackle opponents in soccer, or like, using the elbows on the
yeah.
court. So, you're a little distracted. I don't blame you. Okay. Yeah. One last question, solely about you, and then we'll get off you and you can breathe a big sigh of relief and we can just talk about the White Sox. But tell me a little bit about the Twitter account, how that came about, and how that following has grown, and what your objective with is. Because I, of course, find it, as I've told you already too many times, so don't blush, but just fun, perfect. It's exactly the type of account I want to read. So how did that come about? Just sort of just, hey, why not?
Yeah, so this is the sad moment that we we talked about before. So it actually started, so in May, like my dad was in hospice, and at like the last couple weeks he no longer could talk. But we always watch the games. So I'd always put the games on for him. He'd open his eyes sometimes. He would like be somewhat responsive, but he couldn't talk. And I was like, I'm sitting here watching the games with him. Like, I want to be with him. I want to have him watch the games because he watched every single game religiously. And I was like, but I want to talk about it, with like people who can respond to me. So I was like, my friends, like I'm in law school, like they probably don't even know who the White Sox are. Like they know the Cubs. People ask me if the White Sox play at Wrigley Field. So I'm like, I was like, okay, there's probably like a community on Twitter about White Sox. And so I was like, okay, I got on. Like I just picked a random name that I thought was funny. I don't know if it was. Someone called me an idiot shit poster one time, and I was like, first of all, I got to look up what a shit poster is, but maybe that's what I am. I don't know.
Yeah, hey, that's feedback. That's feedback that's going to fuel you. That gives you like another week of running the Twitter account. It's like, oh yeah, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I guess people find I'm funny, which was funny because when I told my mom, I was like, oh, this like blog reached out to me. I think they think I'm funny. She's like, that's hilarious because you're not. Like, okay.
I think I know maybe where you get it a little bit, Celeste. Oh, very interesting. Feisty. Okay. Hi, Mom. Hi, Mom. Oh, that's good. More fuel. That gives you another week on the Twitter account. More fuel. Well, you are. And as I've told you, absolutely delightful and a real talent. I'm especially excited. Listen, I love everybody on this staff, and everybody does have their strengths. Some of those like stat nerds from Dugout Metrics, I love those guys because they do stuff I can't even figure out. I still can't. I don't know why they let me host their podcast. And of course, we have remarkably creative people, super devoted to the devotion that everybody on staff seems to be more dedicated to the White Sox than me, which, listen, I'll honor. I'll call it as I see it, which is I'm just the guy like trying to like pull a few levers. Everybody involved with the site who's not me is what's keeping it going. They're the blood of this. And it's such a thrill to be able to invite new people in, particularly people who really strike me with great talent, and accidental or not, Celeste, you absolutely are that. So it is terrific to have you on. And boy, it sure sounds like we're wrapping this podcast up, but no, we are not. We are just reaching the midpoint. We're going to take a brief commercial break. And when we come back, we're going to just talk 2021 White Sox, because that's what's going on, man. They're in first place. It's exciting. Celeste was just at the game last night. She's into it. So we're going to talk about the team, where they're going, where they're at, what they could be in just a minute. Hey, guess what? We are back. It is South Side Sox podcast number 57. My delightful guest, another new staff member. So happy to have her with us. It's Celeste Rodogno and Wonder Dog Vinnie, somewhere about. And with her new super groovy Frank Thomas hat, sporting it. It's a look. Does not have the White Sox shirt, but that'll be next time. There will be a next time. But we are transitioning now into the second half of the podcast where we are going to talk 2021 Chicago White Sox. And let's start it out the same way as yesterday, Celeste. And I'll ask, at this point, comfortably in first place, barely past midseason, did you expect the White Sox to be where they're at? How does it feel where they are at? Give me your status standing on the earth rotating around the sun at this moment vis-a-vis the White Sox?
Yeah, I mean, did I predict where they would be at? Like, yes and no. I definitely thought Vinny.
He really wants to. I think he's got the answer.
Yeah. Do you have something to say, Vinny? No. Okay. Yeah. No. I mean, I think we maybe I don't know who I'm speaking for, but like thought that the vision would be better. You know, like the Twins just shit the bed completely. But I mean, I did expect us to be good. I am not happy with the like seemingly endless slump our offense is kind of having. But yeah, obviously happy with the comfortable lead. This is probably an unpopular opinion, but I know Tony has made some like questionable decisions a lot. But for me, having like such the lead that we have, I'm more okay with him experimenting with, you know, those kinds of things, like putting Andrew Vaughn at second base. I know he wasn't thinking that's the permanent solution, but you know, why not? Like, let's fuck around and find out if it is. We're up 9 whatever games. You know, we have some wiggle room. The rest of the division seems to have just given up. So whatever. I'm happy with where we're at.
There is something to be said, and I'm going to measure my words. There's something to be said about a guy who's been there. If this was Ricky Renteria managing, it's not to say he wouldn't be doing a better job, but the one thing you can say is he hasn't been here. Tony has been in this position. He's been in this position with the White Sox, much less 2 other teams, countless other seasons, and you would have to consider that a strength. Now, whether it was just random and he miswrote the lineup when he put Andrew Vaughn at second base or not, the fact that he's been there and the fact that even when it's questionable, just like you said, Celeste, is like, okay, well, maybe there's some thinking behind that. And this guy has managed a few more games than me, even though I do believe you are actually literally following in his footsteps. You're getting the law out of the way first. A smart move. It's probably good to put that in the bank and then pursue the managerial career. So I think that's the way you're thinking of doing it. I don't want to speak for you, but.
Yeah, I was upset when I found out that he actually sat for the bar. So like, I'm gonna have to do that too. I can't just go straight into baseball.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I guess that's the trajectory. Hopefully without the DUIs.
Yeah. Hopefully. Do you have any explanation for you referred to the offense being in sort of this state of perpetual slump and no getting around that, but there is a reason for it, and that's the fact that the White Sox have they've decided they're taking a cutting edge look at injuries this season. That is, none of their pitchers are going to get hurt. They're going to just have all their hitters get hurt, because apparently in the White Sox organization, you can ask a catcher or a first baseman or a scout to just play one of the corner outfield positions, and they're going to do okay. So they're getting a little bit chippy about that, confident in that. Do you have any theory that might explain why, unlike other teams, you know, the Twins, every other team has had pretty much equal injuries, right? I mean, we're all human beings. Some guys hurt their arms, some guys, hurt their legs running to first base. There's no reason why everyone who's hurt should be on the offense, but the White Sox have everyone hurt on the offensive side of things. Any theory there?
I mean, I don't know how the training staff works. Like, if the pitchers have a different training staff than the offense does, it could be a complete coincidence. It could be training is not, up to par. I definitely said that on Twitter and got completely railed for it. So
you shit poster.
Yeah, so hesitant to say that. So as far as theories go, I don't know, that would be something, in my opinion, I would look into it. At least somebody should maybe wonder why, especially with these like hamstring injuries, other soft tissue injuries. Why are they happening? Why are they happening when we're running to first base, which is like a routine thing? Well, maybe not now when our offense isn't working, but maybe that's why the offense isn't working. We're saving the hamstrings until we need them.
This just came to me as we're talking about this, as I asked the question, Celeste, and this is the magic of the South Side Sox podcast, because we solve problems in real time. Here's my theory. See what you think about it. Lance Lynn is a big hoss. He 4 days a week isn't doing anything. Yeah, I know. Don't yell at me in the comments. I know he does things. He's tracking pitches. He's doing his side work. Okay, fine. He's not doing anything 4 days a week. He gets to the training table first, and he's not eating it all for himself. He's bringing some for the rest of the guy. He's taking care of his posse. So in other words, the pitchers are hitting the training table harder, getting the best of the best. And like the PBJ and whatever the other stuff, the baloney, that's left for the hitters. That way, try that one on for size.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. I'm not I could be a doctor on the internet, but I don't really know. It's something like sometimes I wish I had more information about it so then I could pretend I know what I'm talking about a little bit more. But yeah, that would make sense that, they're not doing as much, but it could also just be complete wizardry. I don't know.
It could be. I'm going to let you, not because of Vinny, I'm going to let you take a pause. I'm just going to talk to the camera while you go to your Twitter bio and just insert doctor. I'll give you a minute to do that. Okay, let's see. Next question. What else should we talk about? Oh, trades. What are your reaction to the trades? The White Sox put us all in a very bizarre position as fans because it seems like it had been maybe, well, in some cases, literally entire lifetimes. For some of us, maybe a little bit older, we can maybe remember a time when White Sox were buyers at a trade deadline, but it's been a while. And the White Sox were buyers. We knew they would be. I guess the question was, would they spend money on it? Would they buy anything? Or would they just be window shopping? But they did. They struck sort of hard. They struck the north side, contributing to the demise of their rival intra-city team. How'd you come away from the trade deadline? Feeling good, feeling like they could have done more? Did you like what they grabbed, or would you have rather had maybe different guys, same position?
I thought it was good. I don't hate the Cesar Hernandez trade. I mean, he was a Gold Glover. He can hit. I think considering that Madrigal, we didn't know what was going to happen with him. He's prone to injuries. Like, I think that was a good trade. Obviously, landing Kimbrel was great. If I'm being honest, I didn't really know much about Tepera before the trade deadline, so I didn't have much to say about that. But it was funny. So I was listening to the radio the other day. It was whatever show's on before Waddle and Sylvie on AM 1000, whatever. There's Cubs people called back to back, and one guy was saying, the Cubs really got fleeced on the Kimbrel trade. We should be getting someone like Vlad Jr. for Kimbrel, not someone like Patrick Leclerc. And the next guy that called said, the Sox really got fleeced on that trade because Madrigal is going to be an all-star and Kimbrel's just having a year and he's going to get injured. And so it was kind of, listening to all these people with all their opinions. And it's the same thing on Twitter too. Everybody's got different opinions. Everybody's like an armchair expert. And I'm just like, it's, whatever happens, and no one can predict how someone's going to play once they get traded, because people can slump at any time. It could just feel different. So I mean, Kimbrel's been great. Hernandez is due for a home run. So
yeah. Well, that's a good definition. Yeah, that's an interesting anecdote with a little snippet of White Sox flagship radio back-to-back calls where, that's probably a good definition of a win-win trade, or at least on paper at this moment, because I think you can see arguments for both sides. I was surprised that Hoyer went for Nick Madrigal. Not that his talent isn't substantial, but he's already in the majors. His service time clock is going. They don't get full control the way they would with another player. And then there is the injury circumstance, which I think would give pause. And I'm sure it did give him pause, because this is 3 out of 4 years where Nick Madrigal has suffered pretty significant injury. We'll call him injury prone per se, but I mean, this one to the degree where he's out for the season. This is even a situation where, like with Eloy and Luis now clearly going to be coming back, just missing a big chunk of the season. That's going to give you a little pause when you're talking about, okay, this is going to be our second baseman of the future. And I'm sure it gave, not that Rickon was fed up and he was just impatient that I got to get rid of this guy. He's so cute, but forget it. I don't want him anymore. I don't want to look at it anymore. But I guess when the opportunity comes up to go for it, Again, despite the fact that I'm sure he woke up that day like, what? Wait, I'm used to this. Is not the position I'm used to being in. It was pretty cool that he pushed the button and said, "All right, well, let's get a little bit richer here and have two closers, even one who does an annoying, weird ass thing with his arm, which still I'm trying to wrap my head over around the fact that he's on the White Sox because it annoys the hell out of me. But if he keeps throwing like a 0.5 ERA, yeah, I'll take the weird crow thing he does.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It came to me, like the word I would use to describe him, why it was a little bit off to me. And it's very avian what he does. Yeah. Like I really get, and I hate birds. They're like in my top 3 like fears, just birds. So like I'm a little bit put off by Craig Kimbrell because he's kind of bird-like. But you know what? He's a great bird. So whatever.
Tune in next podcast with Celeste Radogno, where we further delve into all the different grudges that she has made throughout her young life, and now including the entire avian species. I like this. We're learning a lot about you, Celeste. This is why we do this. The White Sox are in the catbird seat, you might say. There's really almost no way they're going to lose this division, which is ridiculous. There's no way any of us would have thought that. And as you pointed out, it's because of the division. It's not necessarily because the White Sox are on it's a 90 plus win pace. Let's say it's about 95. I'm guessing. But yeah, the rest of the division sucks. Cleveland, I guess the most viable contender, waved sort of not a white flag, a little white handkerchief. Detroit is like the second best team in the division. What the hell is that about? So yeah, everybody's taking the step back, and the White Sox are like, well, I don't think I stepped forward, but okay, yeah, I'll take the crown. You think that's a good thing or a bad thing with the team? We're seeing even now in this Kansas City series where it's sort of like, I wouldn't say it's malaise, but they should not lose another game in the division this season based on the talent discrepancy. And yet they seem to be struggling a little bit.
Yeah, I do wonder if part of it is a little bit of complacency. Like, we have this comfortable lead. No one else seems to want to win. Like, maybe they're saving it for the off season. I don't want to speculate and get in their heads, but yeah, I would want us to win more. I mean, people on Twitter are always like, oh, you can't expect them to win every game, like, which is totally true. But I'm like, I could want the team that I root for to win every game. Like, I want that. So yeah, I'm a little disappointed sometimes, but I don't know.
I'm guessing you don't shut your Twitter account down or vow to never be a White Sox fan again when they lose, though. I mean, it's not like we're not burning the house down. It's like, well, wait, of course, what's the point of watching these games unless we want them to win? And in most cases, given how good this team is, expect them to win. I mean, right? You're not going next door and beating up your neighbor because you're angry about the White Sox game. You're like, hey, wait, we're supposed to be able to criticize this idea that, like, even of all people, like Tony La Russa is above criticism with this team because, like, they're doing good. It's like, well, okay. I mean, it seems odd. I mean, it's very tricky territory to tell other fans how to fan, right? And that's never a good thing to do, but I don't like being told that either. And, it's like, this is who I am. I think there's a lot of people like me. It sounds like we're similar enough that, again, losing my mind, but I'm also not just like, hey, it's great. I can't wait to suffer again tomorrow. This is terrific. I love it when they do what they do. So yeah, it's sort of strange when you get that, but then, we're living in an age of extreme. So, I guess it's,
I definitely contribute to that, like, catastrophic thinking, but to me, like, sports fandom has always been like a catharsis thing to me. So like when I'm angry about something in real life, I feel like it's healthier just to, complain about it in sports because I'm not hurting anybody besides people who take my Twitter opinions very seriously. But
that's just it. You're having fun. I mean, they're like one-liners. I dare say, wry, sardonic, probably on point. Again, it's not just like grunt, me, grunt, angry, grunt, kill. It's, I think it's cogent. I think I've done enough. I think I'm aware of, we're best friends now, Celeste. I think I know you well enough that, this is sharp stuff. So it's like, wait, take it easy. I'm allowed to be disappointed. I mean, we see it on our, we see it in our comments. We have some sort of hilariously doomsaying readers. We have some very expletive laden readers, but then those same people are shouting expletives in print, of course, when they're doing well. So, that is part of being a fan. And, again, this whole idea of telling other fans how to fan is tricky, even though by definition, maybe we all do a little bit of that. How do you see this team come postseason, especially if what you suspect may be true, that they're sort of gliding toward that postseason? How do you see them approaching it and executing it differently than last year? Or sort of like for about 6 innings when Lucas Giolito did not give up a hit in game 1 of the playoffs, it was like, wow, this is pretty good. This is pretty easy. And then it sort of all fell apart from there. How do you expect them that they'll be hitting the ground running differently in the postseason this year?
Yeah, I think, for some of them, it's just like being back, like the season's more normal. I think it's going to be a lot about like the mindset. I think getting, the bigger players back is going to be a big boon at the right time. That kind of like puts them in a mindset to get more serious. Not that they weren't serious at all. Obviously, if you're in the postseason, all you're very serious, but like it gives you kind of like that extra like fire under your ass to do better. And I think that that'll make a difference. I think that, getting Grandal back and getting Robert back at the right time is going to be really good for the off season.
I'm going to just continue to pepper you with questions, and the fact that you're hitting the ground running with all of them. Well done. None of this is rehearsed. This is just a point and shoot podcast, people. I think you know that by now because we're on 57. So I think you should be aware of that. But I'm going to ask Celeste, not necessarily your favorite player, because at least in the Meet the Players, it is admitted to be Jose Abreu. I want to know what player on the White Sox this year has impressed you the most? It could be surprise or maybe just most kick ass, but who's impressed you the most this year?
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably gonna have the same answer that a lot of people said, but no one expected Rodon to do as well as he's doing. Granted, the past couple outings haven't been amazing, but overall, he's really exceeded expectations, and that's really been awesome. And then Andrew Vaughn, like, I don't know where the hell that came from, but it's been awesome to watch him.
I mean, you're a professional athlete, and I'm sure this guy's just eaten and slept and drank baseball like since he was 3, but nothing, no matter what he could have possibly thought of going into the season, like he came into the season saying, hey, I think I have a good chance to make the major leagues. This is what Rick Hahn told me. He said he almost called me up at the end of last year, so I'm feeling pretty good about my chance to actually make a major league debut. And whether they dick around with my service time and I got to do like a little audition for a few weeks before I come up, I think I'm going to be in the major leagues this year. And that suddenly turns into, at the end of his good spring training, at the end of spring training, oh, hey, Andrew, you think you can play left field? Here, take a couple games and go out there and play and see if you can do it. And yeah, by the way, you're on the team and all that other stuff that's going to like be pressure and overwhelm you, and also play left field.
Yeah, I mean, he's just athletic. Like, he's an athlete.
Right.
So I was talking to somebody today, and they're like, well, he's going to be even better at first base. And I'm like, okay, great. But he's actually been really good in left field. And it's been awesome to watch that development, and because, it wasn't supposed to be that way.
Yeah, it's amazing to think of a first baseman, even a rookie, a young guy, to be that able. I mean, again, left field isn't exactly the most challenging defensive position, but it sure as hell is challenging when you haven't played it professionally before. You didn't play it in college. We're speculating. I think he played some outfield in high school, but that's a long way to go back under no glare, pressure, or lights to do this. And he's done, I mean, the easy joke is that he's done it better than Eloy, although Eloy did come up and have a pretty good defensive game in his first game back. But I mean, too easy a joke, but also it doesn't mean it's not accurate. Okay, Celeste, okay, tough call here, but we did just talk about Rodon, unbelievable bounce back season, still in the Cy Young running, even though apparently he is claiming a little bit of dead arm at the moment. What are the odds of the White Sox bringing him back for the rotation next year? And if it's more than 0%, I need you to explain yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's more than 0%. I mean, if Kopech's really ready to go, I don't like logistically serious. Like I want him to come back because I love him.
Yeah.
So it has nothing to do with that, but practically and logistically, I don't know. I don't think he's gonna come back, which is sad.
Yeah, and there are a lot of, I'll say us because I was one of them, who thought that probably Lance Lynn and Carlos Rodon would not be back with the White Sox because they just wouldn't open the pocketbook, and they would feel like, obviously Kopech, but then I don't know, Crochet or Lambert or somebody else, or they'd get a fifth starter on the cheap or whatever, like we would expect them to maybe more normally do. The fact that they even locked up Lance Lynn with what seems to be a relatively generous extension was a surprise enough. It's like, oh, this is not the White Sox I've become accustomed to. Maybe they really are going to behave differently in this window of contention.
Yeah, which is awesome to see. I mean, it'd be great if Carlos could come with us, but I don't know if it'll happen.
Is your choice to have a window of contention or just say, hey, you know what? Why does there have to be a window at all? Can I just knock out the window and just have the fresh air all the time and we can compete every year?
Yeah, I mean, I would love to be competitive every year. I think usually that was not how I expected the question to end. Usually it's like, do we have the World Series now, or are we just contenders every year? To which I would have said, why not both? Let's make it happen.
I think it's cute that the team is sort of like condescending to this idea, like, now that you've waited a decade, there's a window now, and we're going to be, and to their credit, it appears that they are, well, aside from this past off season, that they're actually behaving as if they're in a window. But then when you sit back for a second, you think, well, wait, there are other teams that, however many World Series they make or win or whatever, they don't have windows. They're just like sort of there every year. And you think, wow, this is the Chicago White Sox. This isn't like, this isn't some Louisville team or something. This isn't the Austin, Texas White Sox. This is the Chicago White Sox, and we're supposed to be like, yeah, this is the decade, this is the window. And then, like once 2029 comes, it's like, okay, well, let's just crawl under a rock for another 10 years. I hope that's not how it plays out. And it's sort of funny when we talk about the window. It's like, it doesn't really have to be that way, does it? They sort of sold us that, and we're like, yeah, well, I'm glad we're in it, and just hope it just opens and never shuts.
Yeah, and who decides when it closes? I don't know.
We'll end on a philosophical question. Who does decide when the window of contention closes? And we'll pick that up probably the next time, whether Celeste jumps in on more of, I don't know, the group General Mothership podcast, because this will wind down her sole spotlight, Meet the Players, podcast number 57 with South Side Sox. Thank you so much, Celeste, for doing this with me here tonight, but also just for joining up with us. We've already got a piece published that I thought was, and for those of you listening, you don't know what I just did. It was a double chef's kiss. It wasn't a single chef's kiss. It was a double chef's kiss. But really, you should watch. Sometimes you should watch. It's available on YouTube. It's just available. But yeah, for hopping on, I believe Sunday might even be first actual game coverage. I think those details are still coming together, but we're definitely going to have you, hopefully, as regularly as possible on the pages, at least until the bony, craven fingers of law school crawl out of the crypt and drag you away from us, and force you just to live whatever that life is. I assume it's just very like dusty and cobwebby and stressful and filled with people who think the White Sox play at Wrigley Field.
Yeah, it's pretty much a cave.
Nailed it. Can you believe it? I've never been. But yes, please, as much as you want to shovel out, Celeste, as they say, I will happily take. And it's been great to have you on site. Thanks for doing this and giving us all a bit of a little intro. We know now not to guard you too closely. I will say that in the pickup games, I'm going to give you some space. I do not want to end up on my hiney. I don't want to break a hip. I'm believe it or not, contrary to appearances, I am older than junior high age. I will break that hip. So I'm going to give you some space. You're going to have the open three because I'm going to give you some space. I've got the scouting report on you now, Celeste. And on behalf of Vinnie, He's gone again now, but
It's
thank
under
you
my
for making an
feet right
appearance.
now.
All right, thank you for making an appearance. And Celeste, of course, thank you for making an appearance. And hi, Mom. She is funny. Sorry. At least that's my vote. You know, maybe
She
there's
did
some.
tell me after saying that I'm not funny, she said she was the funny one in the family. So
Hmm.
that's her crown, I guess.
Hey, listen, Mom, sounds like a guest post to me, but whatever, you know, you're going to talk tough like that, lay it down for real. But okay, on behalf of Celeste Rodogno, I am Brett Ballantini, hosting the South Side Sox podcast. Thanks for joining us. Thanks always for reading, for listening to our incessant run of podcasts. There's probably going to be another one like in a couple hours, who knows? And maybe even sometimes occasionally watching. I know sometimes you do. But thanks, Celeste. Thanks for hopping on. And let's look forward to a lot more work together and maybe even hopping on a podcast in the near future.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and Vinny as well.
Vinny, come back next time too.